This is Dane Wigington with geoengineeringwatch.org with an update report on the global contamination that is occurring due to ongoing and accelerating climate intervention operations known as solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injection. This is the aircraft dispersed elements in our skies. On this exchange with me will be a PhD scientist from an internationally recognized agricultural research and testing institution. For the purposes of this exchange, we will call him Joe. We know that the amount of material that we're breathing, fine particulate matter in the nanoparticle range, which no major air quality testing institution measures for. They don't even look for it. So all of it goes under the radar, and the amount of this material is, again, inconceivably massive. It's the most toxic. The smaller the particles are, the most toxic they are to respiratory systems. And Joe, this also affects these particles given their composition, their synergistic toxicity. We know they have an immense impact on the soil microbiome, root systems, plant growth. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, Dane, those particulates, they affect everything, right? Because of their size and the way they interact with particles. When it comes to the nanoscale, they become very reactive and they can do things that larger particles cannot do. And we collected rain samples from several different locations in the Midwest. And what we did, we tested for several elements. We tested for aluminum, we tested for barium, we tested for strontium. If we extrapolate it out from where we are into the entire planet, based on the samples that we collected, we find that almost 15 million tons of aluminum, barium, and strontium combined is being spread yearly on the land masses. And this has catastrophic consequences. As you know, soils in California, as we have reported, the aluminum concentration and pH has increased dramatically. Now, what also happens is, once that happens, the aluminum becomes a little bit soluble, and then if there's plants growing there, that can significantly impact plant growth, and plants can also uptake some of that aluminum. Though the aluminum has very high toxicity, and I don't think the amount that they are spraying would kill the plant right away, but you accumulate in the soil, and it may accumulate in tissue, especially on the leaves as that stuff falls from the sky and hits the plants, that will stick to the plants. And again, it's all in a nanoscale. It could migrate into the tissue of plants and also into the edible part of plants that are growing when the stuff is falling. Overall, we all end up with nutrient deficiencies, lower health, and a cascade of negative consequences as a result of this single thing, right? That is just the senseless application of aluminum. Let me just make one more point about those nanoparticles being spread. Here we're only talking about aluminum, but barium and strontium, they could also have very negative consequences.
We have also synergistic toxicity, that all these elements highly toxic in and of themselves, and when combined, toxicity can increase exponentially, correct? We have, in the case of aluminum and mercury, we have peer-reviewed study of the synergistic toxicity between those two metals, both of which are now ubiquitous in the environment and in us. And the toxicity increase based on peer-reviewed study between those two metals can be as much as 100 times worse, 10,000% worse. And we have also, for those that don't know, have long since had Monsanto, for example, engineering aluminum-resistant crops. Why? And I think the why is clear now. I mean, all these entities working together behind the scenes, the climate engineering operations, and their dispersal of literally so many millions of tons staggering numbers, dozens of millions of tons annually based on the calculations that you've done. And so they've tried to mask the effect by engineering aluminum-resistant seeds. You mentioned that you've done, on an annual basis over a specific region in the Midwest, about 500 tests, and I know there was about 100 done recently. And we also had the element graphene show up in most of those tests, correct?
Yes, graphene is, like you had speculated that graphene was also being used for geoengineering operations, and we were able to confirm that indeed there are, not in all events, not in all rainfall or snowfall, but in the majority of them, there are graphene oxides showing up in the samples that we collected.